Good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are here at the Emerging Technology Center. I am Kendrick Tillman. My partner, Kobe Smith, will be joining us. We are here at the Digital Bay Center, and we'll be giving you information on the Digital Bay Center and a few projects that we have coming up.
Good morning. Good morning. First off, I want to thank Emerging Technology Centers for inviting us to kick off and close out Baltimore Innovation Week. I want to thank Deb Tillett, ETC's President and Executive Director, as well as Salim Monroe and Brianna Massey for the opportunity. It was much appreciated. My name's Kobe Smith. I'm co-founder and CEO of Digital Bay Center. We are a technology incubator with an emphasis on targeting minority-owned and operated firms, but with an open door to everyone. On Monday, it was Digital Bay Center's pleasure to announce the launch of our food technology incubator that we've dubbed Green Locust Marketplace, located in Locust Point. We want to thank Senator Antonio Hayes and Councilman Eric Costello for joining us at that event and helping to make that event special for us. We want to thank Marcy Crump of theflywire.com and Joyous Jones for also helping, as well as TikTok Mind Studios for documenting it for us and making that event special. Today, we will unveil some information that will hopefully change lives and change communities. You may ask, what is a diversity incubator? Think profit with a purpose and conscious capitalism, the marriage between diversity incubators and benefit corporations. What is a diversity incubator? Diverse entrepreneurs and inclusive incubator accelerators build a culture of prosperity, noting the importance of creating spaces that innovate new strategies for supporting underrepresented entrepreneurs. Also, a confirmed critical need for more learning platforms on diversity and inclusion for leaders of incubators, accelerators, and other entrepreneurial support organizations. As far as creating more diversity incubators, there are some points of need. Targeted outreach through diverse partnerships is an effective strategy to reach diverse entrepreneurs that may think, well, this isn't for me. Digital Bay Center seeks to instill in these entrepreneurs the understanding that they are part of a long legacy of business creation and ownership. Building an inclusive culture, noting the importance of creating spaces that reflect situational learning, meeting entrepreneurs where they live through a neighborhood-based micro-incubation program that places kiosks in different communities. Discovering the unique needs of female founders and how entrepreneurial support organizations can make their programming resources more attractive to women. Innovative new strategies for supporting underrepresented entrepreneurs, but also confirmed a critical need for leaders of incubators, accelerators, and other entrepreneurial support organizations to support them.
We always say that teamwork makes the dream work. And each of us need all of us. Pulling resources together allows us to do much with little resources. We're identifying grants currently to support operations and building costs. And we realize that in our networks and communities, as we showcase this in our progress in next year's annual report, we wanted to be able to bring to the space a digital incubator entrepreneur network. And we want to design a strategic plan and growth and network around raising awareness and champion for diversity incubators all across the country and for entrepreneurs to share the same practices and bring those resources to one particular place. Our relationship with supporters can enable the growth of this diverse incubator entrepreneurial network where we can really come together to bring each other's strengths together to complement the weaknesses of the organizations. We found that having a community of resources helps you accomplish your goals immediately as you put forth the efforts that you are strong in. And so we realized that having networks around us will allow us to be able to bring forth resources to you as well as the entity that we have and the projects that we have in the future.
As far as proposed legislation is concerned, in the procurement of state government contracts, minorities by law are represented at nearly 30%. There is no such inclusion in the technology investment space, however, where entities such as the Maryland Technology Development Corporation, while they are making an effort to address the issue, is well aware of the large disparity in the investment capital that goes to minority-owned and operated firms versus non-minority-owned firms. We believe inclusion for diverse incubators and accelerators should reflect the same percentage in the tech space as it does in procurement. In an effort to level the playing field, Digital Base Center has drafted legislation on the local and state level that would allocate funding through TEDCO directly to diversity incubators in the amount of $5 million annually. That will be split up amongst up to 20 incubators and accelerators at no larger than $250,000 per grant. Incubators and accelerators would need to qualify and be certified by being certified by our certifying entity, the National Association of Diversity Incubators, NADI. And these grants would be geared towards young founders, companies 3 years and younger, giving birth to more diversity incubators. In that vein, we will have more diversity in ideas and more diversity in people. We have copies that we will circulate at the end of this presentation.
At this time, we will have a guest speaker. Edwin Tuvin is the CEO of Tuvin and Tuvin Ltd. He went to Robert H. Smith School of Business, University of Maryland. He is a finance fellow mentor. He is the Think Local, Think First moderator. The Sitar Art Center, he's a member of the board. The Be Local Mid-Atlantic, he's an affiliate of the B Lab. He's a treasurer and a board member. He's a business mentor at the Seed Spot Accelerator. He's an economic advisor at Vault Ventures, LLC. He's on the board of directors of Johns Hopkins University Alumni Council, and that was from 1998 to 2013. He's retired from the Dean's Advisory Board of Carey Business School. He's a director of Cohen & Co. Securities, and that was from 2008 to 2011. Executive director of the Main Street Initiative, bringing a unified voice of the Main Street to the White House. VP and co-founder of Maryland Commercial Lenders Association, and the SBA DC District Advisory Council member from 2003 to 2011. Government Relations Committee member of the National Association of Government Guaranteed Lenders. The SBA DC Financial Services Champion of the Year, and that was in 2011. 2010, the SBA DC Metro Community Bank Rural Lender of the Year. 2009, SBA DC ACR Loan Lender of the Year. The Baltimore Smart CEO Magazine CEO's Choice Top Financial Advisor Award, and the Coleman BDO of the Year co-recipient. We have on Zoom now, ladies and gentlemen, please help us welcome Mr. Edwin Tuvin. We can hear you.
Hello.
Excellent.
All right. Colby, if you could put up the slide deck, that would be great. Okay, I'm hanging up. Can you hear me yet?
Yes.
All right, good. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I'm sorry I'm late. Technical issues here, trying to get online. I don't know why. I use Zoom every day, and suddenly I had to load a Zoom application or something like that. But Colby, if you could throw the deck up on the screen so I can see it while everybody else is looking at it, that'd be helpful. Now, right at the moment, I've just got a dark black screen, and it shows that I'm connecting to audio. Certified B Corp logo on the left and the multicolored background with the sun B Corp certification overview on the right.
Do I have a what?
A red background on the left that says certified with a big B in the circle corporation,
Yes,
and on the right, a blue and green background that says B Corporation certification overview.
Yes, I do.
All right, let's start from there. I'm going to go blind. I can't see the screen that you're sharing, but thanks everybody for joining us today here in the Baltimore Incubator Center. I really appreciate Colby Smith and soon to be Dr. Lance Lucas in inviting me to join you to talk today about a movement within business that has become quite active around the globe with some, what you're going to learn are very leading companies who want to make serious impact in our society, in our communities, by, as you can see in the upper right-hand corner, using business as a force for good. Could we turn to the next slide for our outline? So you should see 3 bullets now. I would like to go over the evolution of the green movement, why be a B, and when I'm referring to be a B, it has to do with B corporations and B certifications, and then what we call the B Impact Assessment Review and what it takes to become a certified B corporation. Next screen, please. Should say evolution of the green movement. And so if we flip to the next, you'll see that back in the 21st century, in the 20th century, on the left-hand side, business was all about shareholders. And everything was about giving as much back to the shareholders, also known as stakeholders, the people that had the stock, the investors in the business, returning as much to them in terms of value, regardless of the impact that the business may have made on the environment. So you probably heard many times that, there were vehicles that came out of Detroit that were made by some of the manufacturers who made decisions not to make certain kinds of repairs, for example, to the way a gas tank was in a car, even though they knew that if somebody had a rear end accident, that there is a, less than 1% probability that the gas tank could explode and the people in the car would be killed. They, made an analysis based on what they thought the threat was and how much it might cost them and said, nah, we're not going to fix it. We'll let the people die and we'll pay, if and when they sue us, and that'll be down the road and it'll take a long time and so on and so forth. That maximizing of shareholder value included pollution, that rather than, be a good global citizen and help reduce pollution, they were doing things that basically were, nobody's going to know, nobody's going to find that it was us. We're just going to continue to discharge into a river or a lake or into the air or into the soil, and nothing will happen. And then you get movies like Aaron Brockovich, where you see that what happened was the chemicals that were released by some of these plants impacted the aquifer. The aquifer had toxic, cancer-causing chemicals. People in these neighborhoods started getting sick. And in the Aaron Brockovich movie, an attorney goes in and does all this research and then basically nails the company and obtains reparations, funding back to these individuals for the harm that was caused. But if you look at the right side of the screen, our 21st century view is that we have stakeholder corporations and that they're trying to create social value and shareholder value. So in part, by being a member of this community, a corporation can legally permit their senior executives, their board of directors to function in a way where they are not focused on making every last penny, but they can make decisions to reduce net profit, to offset damage to the environment, and to ensure that their employees are being treated properly and earning a living wage, amongst other things. That has not been the case in the past. And if you look at the bottom, in the 20th century, we had 60 million conscious consumers. Today, we have 100,000 social entrepreneurs and responsible businesses growing faster every day in a $2.7 trillion responsible investment arena. And these numbers are a year old, so that's an increase from when this deck was put together. If we could flip to the next slide where it says people are demanding better. So you look at the labels that we've seen over the last 20 years. Everybody knows that, we started looking at USDA organic. Everybody in the room probably understands what kosher and halal mean as it relates to how humanely animals are slaughtered to be able to be converted into food. We've seen the Energy Star efficiency on all kinds of appliances in our homes, and we know what that means in terms of a reduction of energy consumption, and all of us pitching in to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions from those generation sources for electrical supply that cause damage to our environment with carbon and so on and so forth. What's not on this page is many of the movements now to provide offset for carbon, many of them where people can actually buy carbon credits and things of that nature, which I think is only a part of the issue. You can't just go out and buy carbon credits and think you're doing your job. You have to look at the way your business operates and figure out functional techniques to be able to re-engineer the process of your manufacturing to help reduce that carbon in the first place from the source, rather than saying you're net zero and being able to say, oh, well, we're net zero because we pay. That's great, but what are you actually doing in your own process to help reduce your carbon footprint? That's another deal. And so, many years ago, we started this movement called Certified B Corporations, where, if you look on the bottom right, 73% of consumers care about the company, not just the product when they're making a purchase. I go into the grocery store now, I go into the liquor store now, I look for Certified B organizations, and I'll buy my Maker's Mark bourbon over other brands because they're a Certified B Corp, and I know what that means. They're part of the whole global mission. I'll buy A to Z wine, particularly their amazing and inexpensive Pinot Noir, because they are a Certified B Corp. But there's so many other things. There are banks that are Certified B Corps. There are, investment advisory firms that are Certified B Corps. Patagonia, Ben & Jerry's. We're going to get to that in a minute. So let's flip the page. Now you should be seeing why be a B. Obviously, the sun is there because we're focused on solar, and you see the windmills there because we're focused on wind. We're focused on any kind of renewable resource in terms of being able to reduce what we're doing with fossil fuel emissions, and the same thing goes with the vehicles that people drive and everything. So if we flip, now you should see on the left-hand side the Fetzer Vineyards, which is a B Corp, another place to buy good wine, scorecard. And if you look at the categories, what they're doing is you'll see they meet a verified higher level of social and environmental performance, transparency, and accountability. These are leaders of a global movement that we're all involved in, of people using business as a force for good, which translates into consumers and businesses using their wallet to vote every day to show support for those who are committed to our joint and collective cause for the benefit of all humanity around the earth. And if you look really closely, and I have to take my glasses off to read it, you'll see on the scorecard, the first area of scoring is the environment, and then it goes into workers. It takes about a year for a company to get through and get certified and go through the whole process. But it really gives them a real focus on all these various areas. And then they have to get recertified every couple of years. Now, there are consultants that have made a business out of assisting organizations with getting certified. There are local support groups, which we call B Locals, which provide background information, introduction, and networking for people that are interested in being involved in the B Corp movement, or for people who would like to join the B Corp movement. And these B Local chapters are across the country and around the world. They're very open to assisting others. And when you reach out, there's always somebody that's willing to help in these organizations to help get you to someone who could assist with B Corp certification, questions and answers, etc. Now, Colby, if we can go to the next page, can you tell me, do you have a group of pictures for various different certified B Corps?
Yes, we do. We do.
You do? Okay, good. So just to go over it, I mean, there's some major corporations who pay based on the number of individual employees. So you can imagine for Ben & Jerry's that this is an expensive proposition for them. They have thousands of employees and they get recertified every time it's available for them to come up every couple of years. And they've been involved in it, just like Patagonia, which many of you may have read recently. The founders of Patagonia, the husband and wife, just donated their company to a nonprofit organization that's going to now take those funds and do better good for the communities, on and on and on. Down in the bottom left, and a fellow alum from Johns Hopkins, where I graduated and had my MBA, Warby Parker. They've been for quite some time. You see Kihi, you may see Kihi trucks all over the streets. They're a transportation company delivering the last mile, and they're all over the place as well. They are a B Corporation. Kickstarter, Laureate Education, The Honest Company, Old School, Badger. I don't know if you've been in Whole Foods or some of the other natural food stores like Mom's Market, etc. But Badger sells some amazing creams. They're not only healthy, but they're also a B Corp. When we rolled this out, we had 2,500 certified B Corps. We have over 3,000 now in 40 plus countries and 140 industries, all supporting our one goal. Some of the ones that are publicly traded companies, if you'll flip to the next screen, you'll see that Procter & Gamble, Campbell's, Unilever, Danone, which is a massive company. Most people recognize it for the yogurt, but it's way more than that. Ben & Jerry's again, Plum Organics, new chapter. And if we go, let's go to the purple page, and how B Corp certification helps companies. And by the way, if there's any questions, please let me know. I can't hear you that well, so you have to get closer to wherever your microphone is to ask, but I'm happy to answer questions along the way. I still can't see the screen, and I'm not sure why. It's probably just a bad internet connection. But from the beginning, once you become a certified B Corporation, in addition to your own corporate mission, this assists you in maintaining that mission if you're a company that wants to do good. If you're focused on being a company that just wants to take advantage of the environment and, ride freely off the back of, our natural resources, okay, that's one thing. But if you're a company that's truly trying to do good and, you want your people to to live well and have a life and work balance and so on, or work-life balance. That's that. It helps you differentiate from pretenders, meaning there's a lot of people that talk the talk, but when you get certified, it's grueling and it's walking the walk. It's truly a mechanism that anyone out there looking at you can say, oh, wow, this isn't a joke. These people got certified, they paid to have it done, and now they're paying to maintain their certification. It actually has real benchmarks. You saw the numbers on the scorecard. Scorecards can get better or worse. I know plenty of people who have gone in for recertification, 2, 4, 6 years down the road, and suddenly something happened, and the real life people that work with B-Lab that do the certifications downgraded them, and they get upset about that because you want to try and keep as high a mark as possible and make sure that you can be one of the members of what B-Labs calls best for the world organizations. These are the highest scoring and best performing under the mission companies across the board. It helps today. There's so many people looking for jobs that want to work in an environment where they know they're doing good and where they know that the company adopts a policy of taking care of people and giving people a voice out in the field, because it's very easy now. For me, for example, as an employee several years ago of a B-certified bank, I could easily step up to the president of the bank and say, hey, this practice that's occurring inside of our organization is a total violation of everything we believe in terms of what we've adopted as our B Corp mission. It's got to be repaired. And it didn't come back on me. I didn't make the mission. I was there to be a member that followed the mission. But suddenly, individual employees now have a voice where they're not getting picked on for being the whistleblower. They are the voice that's saying, hey, we made a commitment and we were certified, and now here is an example of where we're not applying and abiding by these policies and procedures. So you'll see that the collaboration with peers is important, saving money and accessing services, generating press, which B-Lab does a great job of, and helping maybe to raise capital because people are more sensitive to it. So what are the measures that matter? Let's go to the next slide. So there's 72 versions of our BIA, our assessment, right? And they focus around these 5 areas: how you deal with your community, how you deal with the environment, how you deal with your customers, how you deal with governance of your organization, and how you deal with your workers and your employees. So let's go now to the next one, which says B impact assessment, and flip to the one after that and talk about what matters when they come and they do the assessments with you. And like I said, it's not one day. It could be 1 year that it takes. It could be longer. But in environment, how do you use energy? Are you net zero? What are your facilities like? Are you free and clear of hazards? Do you have asbestos in your building? Do you have toxic chemicals in your building? Or in your supply chain? What's going on there? How's your supply chain work? Is it in and of itself as green as it could possibly be? The same thing with manufacturing. Are you using the most advanced scrubbers that you can? Are you ensuring that you're not polluting? Are you recycling your waste, maybe for another purpose? There are people now that are taking some of the waste and using it to make things like e-methanol and other types of products that are cleaner than basic, oil-derived fuels, and recycle waste that would otherwise be poured into dumps. In terms of your community, are you buying local? That's a really important thing with the B-Lab movement, is supporting local suppliers. Do you have diversity if not, what are you going to do to change that? And how is your staff focused on being involved in charities and volunteerism to help your local community? Because you're there as a member of that community, and you need to be able to give back to the community as part of what matters here for B-Lab. Your customers, Do you have a high impact supply chain? Are you targeting underserved communities? With banks especially, that's critically important because we have the historically underserved markets, which are women owned, minority owned, and veteran owned businesses. And a B certified bank says to their lenders, we want you to focus and make sure that this is happening and that you are allowing these people to get loans based on their qualifications and their business plans, not by the color of their skin or their race or their religion or anything of that matter. It's a mission. They are set out to do this. They are from the very, very top of the board of directors to the CEO of the company. They are empowered to go out and ensure that they maintain this kind of relationship within the community and that they approach these kind of individuals and that they think about it in a positive way to go out and help. Then there's the governance. It's got to be transparency. And I mentioned about ownership before. And workers, what kind of opportunities are there? A B corporation, a certified B corporation, needs to look at job growth and fair compensation and benefits. In other words, people have to be able to afford a home that's somewhere like 30-some% of their gross. That people have to be able to have enough money to live off of and pay all their bills and put some money away every single month for retirement and for college education for children and things of that nature. They can't live paycheck to paycheck because then what's going to happen? Their time flies very quickly. They end up getting to retirement age and they find out they don't have enough money to retire and they can't. There are many people right now that as a result of what's going on in our economies, they're coming back to work or they're not quitting because they recognize that the amount of dividends and interest that they thought they were going to get from their retirement accounts isn't there today, and they've dropped precipitously, some of them 40%. That's a drastic reduction to be able to have an increase back to where they were at parity. Going down to 40% is one thing. Trying to get back to where they were is a much, much larger number, as all of us know. And what's really important is employee ownership, giving people that capability not only to earn funding and having some real say in the company and feeling like they're a part of the company as an owner of the company, but also that they can profit alongside of the shareholders and senior executives of the organization. Let's go to the purple slide, community equals stakeholder palooza. So the big question is, what are you thinking about when you hear about community? And do you even think you're involved in community? So for B Lab, you see we're about diversity, civic engagement, giving. We just came out with a policy on diversity, equity, and inclusion with our JEDI scorecard, JEDI. I think I sent it to Dr. Lucas so that he can share that with everybody in the class. It's really intense, deep. It was a think tank of individuals from a broad range of our community at B Lab who put it together. And I think it's very valuable. And when we think about community, we're also looking at our suppliers and our distributors and the products. You know, we're not going to buy goods from organizations with questionable employment practices like we hear about in China, for example. And although they're not a B Lab or a B certified organization, you even see, for example, Apple pulling some of their production out of China and moving it to other places where there's less of an issue. So sample question slide is the next slide. You know, one of the things is how many new jobs did you create last year? And by what percentage has your worker base grown over the last 12 months? Just wanted to share that to see that that makes a difference in the scorecard. And they want to see opportunity and growth come out of this. Then there's the next page, which is probably one of Lance and Colby's favorite pages because this is what they're really committed to, amongst other things with respect to helping people. They want to make sure that the environment is also protected. Basically, and I'll add that it's an important function for me, that we're all in it together. You listen to what Al Gore says, and if we forget about it and leave it alone, we're going to be back potentially at a point where the temperature on Earth raises to such a point that the water temperatures in the ocean get warm enough to allow the methane gas that's currently trapped under the ocean out. And that methane gas, of course, everyone knows is hazardous to human life and could be what the cause was for the extinction of the dinosaurs. That's a theory anyhow. I think it makes sense to me. And so they want you to look at your land, office, and plant, what your outputs are, the impact of your business models, direct impact products and services, and redesign intensity of practices, and then who you're using for transportation and how that works. And all your inputs, your energy use, are you using renewables, your water use, are you recycling and making sure that it goes back into the aquifers clean, your product packaging input materials, are you using recyclable materials, or are you back in the styrofoam stone age? All of that is really important as it relates to what's happening. And companies now, we have this obvious mass of remote working now, but if you're working in a building, office, or a plant, there are mechanisms to make those buildings green, LEED certified, platinum, and so forth, which creates a better environment for the employees, as well as less of an impact. So as it relates to sample questions there, if you flip the screen to the next slide, the two questions here are, which of the following environmentally preferred products have been purchased for the majority of your corporate facilities, and recycling programs. Obviously, non-toxic janitorial products is a huge piece of it, because everything that we flush in our area goes into the Chesapeake Bay. And we've been flushing bleach and trichloroethene, which is a cleaning substance that's used to clean printed circuit boards of flux and solder, excess solder. And also it's a cleaning fluid that was used at dry cleaners for many, many years. When I finance a dry cleaning, we have to have a phase 1 and most oftentimes a phase 2 environmental impact study, and we always find trichloroethene in the aquifer and have to come in and do something to remediate it and get it out of the building. And we're talking about places that have had it for 20 years. The building was not operating as a dry cleaner for 20 years, and yet they still have these toxic chemicals in the ground, which are impacting people's health, causing cancer, and so on. Now, from a governance standpoint, if you move to the orange slide, it's all about their mission-locked corporate accountability, compensation and wages, government metrics, transparency always comes through, and our mission and engagement. So the sample questions there on the next slide are, does your company have a corporate mission statement? And does it include any of the following? A corporate mission statement that does not include a social or environmental commitment. They're focused on making sure that these businesses are full on, upfront, recognizing that they have to address it and they have to understand it. In Baltimore, I'm sure you all know that we have Sylvan Learning Systems, founded by the Becker brothers. They started in the computer business back when personal computers really first took off. So in the early 80s, they worked at Computerland in Towson on York Road. They came up with a really neat idea. They sold it to Blue Cross Blue Shield for something like $5 million. Their father, Gordon Becker, invested through an investment advisor in nursing homes and a bunch of radio stations at a point in time when both of those industries were cheap. They made even more money, and the Beckers founded their business, which they eventually sold. They have a private equity firm now in Florida, and they have two positions. They are a certified B Corp, which they did as a secondary piece. But first, when they actually created their legal entity, they formed their organization as a legal B Corp, as opposed to a C Corp or an S Corp or an LLC. And by doing that, again, it gives them certain abilities to transact and conduct their business in a socially conscious way that a normal corporation having to focus on returning shareholder value would not be allowed to do. And what the Beckers said was that they have this company that has offices all around the globe, and each one of these global areas has kind of a different focus on how they transact and conduct and do business. but they always come back in making their decisions to their mission and focus on the fact that they're a B Corp, and they use that base as a standard for making all decisions in their companies at every single level across every country they're involved in. If we continue to the next slide, you'll see which type of employee training does your company provide regarding its social and environmental mission. You know, I travel and I stop at every B Corp that's in the neighborhood where I go, and I often ask the employees, for example, at Ben & Jerry's, so what's it like to work for a B Corp? And at Ben & Jerry's, when you walk up to the headquarters in Vermont to the front door, there's a huge sign, Certified B Corp, right at the front door where all the guests go, not necessarily the employee entrance. And unfortunately, a lot of the employees there I found did not know that they were a B Corporation, and they did not know what it meant to work as a B Corporation. So it's incumbent upon the organization to ensure that they go ahead and they spread the word to these employees. It's very, very important to constantly reinforce. So at the bank I worked for, every quarter when we had the meeting with the president, we ran over all the numbers for the bank and the production and, you know, new issues, new employees who were coming on board. We always talked about something related to B Corps to bring it back up to the attention. It's too much to take in all at one time, but little bits at a time, we can, just like the mission of this whole entire movement. One company
I don't
at
want
a
to cut
time,
you off at this
one
point,
effort at
but
a time.
we have about 5 minutes left, and I want to see if there's any questions that the audience has for you guys.
Let's do it.
For you about B Corps.
Absolutely.
So I want to turn to the audience and
Here you go.
see. I want to turn to the audience and ask if you have any questions for our guest Eddie Tubin about B Corporations at this time.
And in the meantime, if you could flip back 3 more to the slide that says redefining business success, Colby, that'd be great. All right, I'm listening for questions.
I see someone with their hand up. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question about folks who might be starting out and looking to raise money. So maybe a B Corp aligns with the values that they want to provide, but how does that impact the potential investors they can bring on? And I'm asking this because I'm involved in a fund, and one time we were looking at a company that was a B Corp, and even from a funder perspective, trying to understand like what those differences were, and if we were a good match as a fund to be investing.
You're gonna have to repeat it, Cole, because I can't hear anything other than I do hear somebody in the background.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Unfortunately, our audio is coming directly out of the computer.
Right, but I can hear you. I just can't hear people in the room. So can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Do you know anything about?
Now I can hear.
Great. Yeah, I moved closer. Do you know how this might impact? So if you're an entrepreneur and you think a B Corp is the right move for your company, but you know that you might need to raise some investment, like some equity investment, do you know how being a B Corp may in fact impact that? You know, would it hurt your chances of receiving investment, or what types of investors should you look out for?
What a great question. So, you know, we have qualitative and quantitative aspects of value associated with being something, right? So, you know, the quantitative function of being a B Corp is almost impossible to calculate. How much new business did we get because we were a B Corp? How many employees came to work for us that wouldn't otherwise have come to work for us, that would have gone elsewhere, except for the fact that we were a B Corp? You know, those kind of things are hard to put a real hard number on. But on a qualitative basis, you can get a pretty good feel for whether or not you can or you can't. Now, let's talk about the current environment in the state of the world. Investors have become ESG focused. ESG is under the radar screen. Is it good? Is it bad? I mean, there's some organizations that have said we're not going to finance anything associated with fossil fuel production. And there's been some backlash against some of those organizations. However, I would say the positive side of that is there's so many more people focused on doing good and making a difference. And there's so many people And while and I'm saying something probably politically incorrect here, so Colby, I apologize, but while our country is so unbelievably divided, probably worse than any time in its history since the Civil War, that, now I think is the time to go out and promote that you do have this mission and that you do adopt the practices of the B Corp values. And I think that you'll find that it's an appealing value to any investor who you would want to be involved in your company. Remember, there's a bunch of different kinds of investors. Some of them are just money, and that's all. But strategic investors who can provide strategic partnerships and can help you in other ways other than just dumping money into the organization, that's way better than just the cash. And so those kind of people who are focused on the mission will be way more attracted, and I think it's worthwhile for you to do it. Good question. Anybody else, Colby?
Any other questions?
They're free. I promise I'm not charging.
Any other questions in general in regards to the presentation? Well, we want to thank you. I think that's about our time. We will have some handouts. The bill that we discussed will be included, as well as an article in regards to the food technology incubator that we're launching, and an article for more information in regarding to B corporations. Thank you.
Absolutely. Good luck to everybody. Thank you here, for joining today and your interest. Just